Hello there, St. John's community. This is Pastor John Haug, and we're trying our second ever coffee hour here. Right after, hopefully, some of you got to listen to the sermon and the worship service today. So, I've got my phone here, and I see some of you that are watching, saying hi to Kim Hendricks and Jenny Moeller and Jonah. Hi, Jonah. Thanks for saying hi to PJ. I thought I'd just start with a few thoughts that I was kind of thinking about post the worship service today. I loved some of the new photographs. Did you all see any of the new photographs this time? I thought they were pretty awesome. Someone's telling me maybe my picture's frozen. I'm trying to see here. Let's check this out, see what's happening on our homepage here. Right. I really appreciate it. Tim Reese is doing a ton of work, and the photographs were really exquisite, particularly at the beginning of the worship service. I was really moved by those. So thank you. Special shout out to Tim Reese. Some other thoughts I was having were around this passage this week. And there were two things about this passage from the Gospel of John. This is the raising of Lazarus that really kind of stood out to me. I'm wondering what you all think about this. What I was thinking about in this passage mostly this week were, first of all, the part at the end of this where Jesus says to the people, he's raised Lazarus from the dead, and he says to people, unbind him, to the crowd, unbind him and let him go. That's always been so powerful to me since I've heard that, because that's our call. Jesus does the raising of Lazarus, but then this crowd, these people, they go towards their friend, Martha and Mary, towards their dead brother. My goodness. Those of you who have lost a sibling can relate to this in a profound way. They unwrap him and marvel at awe at the glory of God that their brother, their friend, is raised from the dead. It had to have been the most beautifully exquisite and heartbreaking moment of joy for these people. And I feel like that's the message. One of the messages is that we are called to do that work. Jesus's work is changing death into new life, but our work is to reconnect people back into community, to solidify that new life by welcoming those friends and family, strangers back into community, by unbinding people, freeing them up by the grace of God to be connected to each other once again. Jesus did this so many times, not just with Lazarus, with the Syrophoenician woman, with the woman at the well, with lepers, with the man born blind. He healed people who were outcasts, who were on the edges of society and community, and then called people to wrap them back in, or inspired these people through their healing so much that they couldn't help but tell people in the community about the healing that had happened to them in this man Jesus. And so this work, this interplay of Jesus offering new life, but then us here remaining, still having work to do, this unbinding, this freeing kind of ministry, that plays into all kinds of things. How we speak to those in our LGBTQIA community, how we speak to those people in our pews on a regular basis, how we speak to and into the lives of people of color, how we speak into the lives of our ecumenical partners, how we speak into the lives of our interfaith partners. All of this is kind of wrapping and unbinding and freeing people up into being truly the community of God. The other thing that really inspired me this week that I hope some of you heard. And it's so cool. On my feed, I'm seeing so many people say hello to each other here. It's like you're connecting, you're feeling free to say hi to each other, which is so great. Hi to Eric Petrowski. I just see you popped up, and Vicky Ibera and others. The other part of this gospel text that really has inspired me this week is recognizing that during this prayer that Jesus says at the end of raising of Lazarus, he says in front of all the people that he's praying this prayer so that they can see the glory of God. And they aren't believing, many of them yet, that Jesus is who he says he is, the Son of Man. And so Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead without any dependence upon anyone else's belief. So often in church we say you have to believe first or something. In many churches, you have to sign on to this creed, you have to believe in this in order to claim and be a Christian or be a member here. It's not the way it works with Jesus. People weren't believing. And still, Jesus does what Jesus does. He raises people from the dead. I'm seeing some comments here, trying to see. And he raises people from the dead, not dependent upon our belief at all. And that to me was really heartening and something I needed to hear this week. With the coronavirus and these uncertain times, sometimes I'm filled with doubt about our future. Sometimes I'm wondering where God is. If God, if you were here, my brother wouldn't have died. God, if you were here, maybe we wouldn't be as sick and spreading this virus as much as we are. I can ask those kind of questions that I'm sure you're asking too. But our answers to that, our belief, is not going to shape the pattern of death and new life that God is a part of. And to me, that really matters and affected me in this way. Not that we do nothing. Once we experience that transformation, I see Jim Ketty saying, our answer does matter. I'd say our response matters. Our response to that question, do you believe? Our future response matters. But God's work of death and new life is not dependent upon our answer. But once we encounter and are transformed by that, God's grace brings us to our knees, raises us back up to our feet, and sends us out into the community to do the work of unbinding and freeing others with the good news of Jesus Christ. I needed to hear that the future of the world is not dependent upon my certainty this week, but on the certainty of God, who raises us from death, who renourishes us in this pattern of death and new life. So I'm curious, I'm trying to follow along. What's interesting for me is as I'm speaking, there's a delay on my Facebook, so a lot of your comments are coming after what I'm saying. But I'm seeing people thanking us for making worship available, that even to folks that don't have a lot of high tech, they were able to just with a couple of clicks get to our produced worship service today, our worship in place. Those of you at home, if you're connected to St. John's or maybe you're just finding us today, if you send us your email address and give us permission, you have to opt in. We won't sign people up unless they tell us and give us permission to opt in. We'll get you connected to our weekly email and our social media, and that's a way to really stay connected to what's happening here at St. John's at this time. Some people are suggesting mobile phones are running this live feed a little bit better than computers. You might have to play around to see what's kind of working best. I'm wondering what's kind of on your minds. One of the things that I'm kind of doing, and I bet some of you are doing this too, I'm kind of asking often, what is God trying to teach me at this time? What is God up to in the world right now? What spiritual lessons are we being drawn into? Um, and thanks, Jason, for the compliments on the sermon. I see that popping up here. Good morning to you. The Casely family's popping in here. Good morning, everybody. One of the things that I said clearly in my service, in my sermon, was that very clearly for me, it's about connection. Pastor Amy said this great, and I've kind of heard this going around. We're social distancing, but really we're not. We're physically distancing. You got to physically stay away from people, and we really should do that. I encourage everybody to follow what they're saying to do so things don't pick up here, and we don't spread this virus even more than it inevitably will. But we're not actually social distancing. We're getting onto Zoom. We're getting onto Facebook. We're getting onto all kinds of apps, Skype, FaceTime, all kinds of ways to connect with people. I bet some of you have had video virtual cocktail hours and video virtual game nights together. Just last night, our high school youth got together with Sarah Street and talked and played games. Just after this, our confirmation class is going to meet over Zoom. And even in a couple of moments, I know Pastor Frank's on here right now responding to many of you, but he's got to jump off here in a few minutes, and he's going to be part of a Luminaria class with some other leaders here at St. John's on Zoom. So we are socially connected. We are spiritually connected, even at this time. I hope you're having kind of similar experiences like that as well. I want to share with you my coffee mug. This is a coffee mug my mother-in-law got me. It's a little joke there for you. It says Hebrews, with all the books of the Bible wrapped around. For my feminist friends out there and my spirit, I kind of also want to put an S in front of this at times. It could just as easily say She Brews as well as Hebrews, but here's my coffee mug that I'm drinking out of this morning. Maybe you all want to show us your coffee mugs as you are joining this coffee hour here. Another thought I had to share with you all is around fasting. So this week and next week, we're talking about fasting this week within, and then fasting next week without. So I think this is an important moment here in Lent to fast. And just want to talk about some possibilities for us. I'm seeing that Gwinnett is talking about how the high school game night was a real big hit. Fasting doesn't necessarily just mean from food. Let me tell you about a few kind of odd fasting things I've taken on. I don't know if you can see this, but I've stopped shaving. I know some other people have stopped shaving for this coronavirus time, but here's how I'm using it as a fast. I'm fasting from shaving, and when I see this scruff that's kind of building up along my beard here, what I do whenever I see it or I pass a mirror, I pray for medical workers who I know are working double shifts, who aren't having the time probably to care for themselves the way they would like to. So my fasting from shaving, I'm turning into a spiritual practice of prayer and solidarity with those who simply can't shave. You easily could do the same thing and pray for the sick, who obviously aren't able to take care of themselves at this time, who have the coronavirus. So think of things that you could fast from that are simple, that are going to be reminders for you to build into a spiritual practice at this time. Some people are going to choose to, you could have a dinner and then not eat anything after dinner until breakfast and use any hunger pains you have. Of course, follow what your doctors say. You might want to have water throughout, or coffee, or something to sustain yourself with liquids while you fast. But if you do it for a short period of time, you can use any hunger that you have in your stomach. Those hunger growls and pains can remind you of what you're doing it for, which could be a practice of prayer. Or maybe you're going to try to fast from anxiety. Oh my gosh, so many of us would benefit from this practice. If you fasted intentionally for a few minutes every day, what if you were to set an alarm on your phone for the same time every day that said, take 5 minutes to breathe. Take 5 minutes to pause and close your eyes and breathe and remove and breathe out your anxiety. Fast from anxiety for 5 minutes a day with a reoccurring alarm on your phone. That would be a really good practice for all of us at this time. Maybe you want to set it for noon or 1 o'clock or a time that works in your day. All right, trying to see what else is going on here. See a lot of people kind of checking in and chatting with each other here on our Facebook page. Wondering what else is on your mind. Anybody having questions? Here's maybe one too. So right from the bishop of our denomination, Bishop Eaton, and others, another fast that we are practicing that some people are debating. We've had lots of theological conversations about this. You've asked us questions, but at least for this, the rest of Lent, we are deciding to fast from communion. And I want to remind Lutherans who've been around a while that we've done this in different contexts. For a while, many Lutherans only only had communion like once a month. Now it's a part of every single one of our worship services. It's the center of what we do. The real presence of Jesus in the body of blood sustains us. So this is hard. This is one where we debate. There are some communities pressing against this, finding that they're not doing what others are recommending kind of higher up in the church. But we, for now, because especially our theme is fasting, we're going to hold to this for this week and next week at least, that from communion. And think about this. If we did decide to continue that fast for the entire time while we are away from each other physically, what a joyous and theologically sound reconnection it truly would be when we come back together for the first time to share the body and blood of Christ together. What a celebration, what a festive moment, what a heartfelt, beautiful, maybe even emotionally tearful moment it would be to come back together and share that meal together after weeks, months of not being able to share it together. So hang tight with us. Know your three pastors and your vicar, Carolyn, that we are hotly debating this. We're talking with our colleagues about it. We're considering all the theological education we have had about this. But communion is really important to us. We're missing it too. I miss it. I know you miss it. But there's some real solid theology here that might lean us toward continuing this fast beyond even Lent until we return. But we will continue to mindfully and theologically discuss that and keep you informed as to kind of what we decide. All right. See some book recommendations coming out here. That's good. There's some book groups coming up. There's going to be a new Zoom group happening this week, likely, with a former pastor, Laura King. I don't know, Laura, if she's on here yet, but she and I have been discussing. She wants to hold a weekly Zoom check-in for anyone that just needs kind of an emotional check-in. We're going to try to get that out here this week. She and I have a phone conversation either today or tomorrow to kind of solidify the details of that. If you've got some ideas or you are willing, especially if you're willing to lead, reach out to us, any of the pastors. At this time, we have a rare opportunity to start some small groups. So I see someone has a question about small groups in the church. There's tremendous possibility for that in new ways. And I think many of us are wondering about the sustainability of this. Because when you do a Zoom small group, people can attend that normally couldn't attend, or maybe are further out and can't commute when we would have something at the church. I think some of these Zoom kind of small group meetings are actually going to continue. We even have cool things like a Wednesday suffrages. We're going to have a Wednesday suffrages sort of worship service, so be a part of that. That'll happen, I think, at about noon or 12:15. At 4 o'clock, Alicio is putting out a produced children's worship, a children's choir kind of experience. So children at Wednesdays and 4 o'clock can keep their routines about that. That's going to be really cool. I see Gwinnett even wondering, what if maybe we do something for the youth, the older youth, for choir as well? We'll talk about that certainly this week. Yeah, there's really kind of a lot of possibilities. Now, I want to share with people. People here are asking a lot about how are our members? Who needs something? How can I help? We have established phone trees. As the director of congregational life, I've established a bunch of phone trees. We are growing in our contacts to people like never before. I have not heard of a member yet who is in dire need of food, or a member who is feeling completely isolated and absolutely alone with no connections. As you might imagine, anyone with family members, they're looking out for each other. But we are also reaching out so they know their church family is with them. And we're getting prepared to help folks by building a list of people willing to volunteer if and when that need does arise. Now, there are a few people who have expressed needs for food, and we're already meeting those needs. As you also know, there are, right out of our parking lot, Mark Lytell. A big shout out to Mark Lytell and the faithful work that he is doing with the showers that are happening in our parking lot. Also, the ability for people to wash their hands and get some food bags as well. So we are doing what we can, and also being careful to follow the guidelines of remaining apart from people in a way. So that's kind of really important. You might lean back into last week. Some people are talking about giving and who you might want to give to. So Gwinnett wants us to lift up the St. John's program for Real Change. That's another one. You can also donate to Mark Lytell's group. There's a GoFundMe page that I think we've linked through some of our emails. You might find a way. Anyone know of a good medical association to donate to about masks? Post that. That would be really excellent to know as well. So last week was giving. Last 2 weeks of Lent, we were talking about giving, and last week was giving without. So take a look at your budget. It's the end of the month here. If you've got some extra dollars, think about who and where that money might be really effective. Talk to your family members about that. Make it a family decision and send some money to those that could be really helped at this time. That would be an awesome, awesome thing. I see other people thanking Ryan Enright for his beautiful opening prelude and the beautiful montage of video and photography. Tim Reese, again, a shout out to you. Beautiful stuff this week. And, last week, everyone, we were scrambling to get this stuff together. And so now we're being able to develop kind of a video library with a little bit more understanding and how we're making this work. So Lance Lewis is saying masks can be donated to the Sierra Sacramento Valley Medical Society. There's a website right up here, www.ssvms.org. So thank you, Lance. Folks, if you want, it's posted right up here. If you want to donate, that would be a great one to do with your families as you kind of look at your end of the month budgets. What other lessons are people learning? What are people really lives, and give us more feedback about what worked in the worship service and what didn't. I hear the prayers of the people. Someone just said really was moving. Rebecca Turnbow, thank you for your prayers of the people today. Shout out to you. That was really wonderful. I appreciate that. All right. Kari's letting us know that the St. John's program for Real Change even has a wish list up. So you could go on Amazon and find their wish list and even purchase some things for the St. John's program for Real Change as well. That would be an excellent way to help as well. Again, people are really appreciating Tim Reese's work on this video. Just another thought, if you have sort of a Facebook friends list, you could start sharing this with them. One of the benefits of doing this worship this way is we can kind of spread out the good work we're blessed to be able to do here at St. John's. So maybe you want to invite some people to be a part of this worship experience. I'm wondering how many people worshiped in their pajamas today. Send me a message if you worshiped in your pajamas today. I know my kids did. that's kind of a side benefit to doing this. Oh, Ingrid is saying she really liked the scrolling words to the sing along of Psalm 130 that she could follow along. That was really cool. The Lewis family, they worshiped in their pajamas. Well done. Hey, would you post pictures or actually send them to SB Foft at the Foft, I should say. Sorry, SB. I'm going to get your last name right, Foft. Send them to SB. We want to collect pictures of families, how you worshiped, by yourself, with others, virtually, however you kind of worship together. Send us some pictures. We love seeing how people are worshiping at home. I know Pastor Frank was tickled when he found out that our nurse, Susie Taylor, she got fully dressed up, all the way down to her shoes, all her church shoes, everything on like she would on a normal Sunday. So Susie, if you're out there, I wonder if you worship the same way this week, or maybe you lean into the pajama kind of camp. Either way, it's really cool to hear how you are worshiping. Yeah. Hey, just maybe a little plug. It's not all about this, but certainly giving is really important to St. John's as well. We are not gathering for worship, so obviously our loose offering is zero. We don't depend on our loose offering for our budgets and how we support the church, but we do depend on regular tithes and givings. So please make sure you're giving through our giving app. Make sure you're sustaining the work of the church. Our goal through this, I've heard Pastor Frank say this clearly, is to keep all of our staff and all of our ministry programs moving forward. We're on track. Pastor Frank said in a meeting this week that he has finally built the staff he's wanted to build for 8 years, and we want to keep that going. So your giving really matters to us right now. It sustains the mission of the church to live God's love in the world to the best of our ability. Those of you that know St. John's know we're never not busy. There's always work and ministry to do, and we're innovating, and we're trying to do that in new and creative ways. So please don't forget to give what you can and to maintain your tithes and offerings. If you don't know how to do that online, we can guide you through that. SB would be great at helping you with that. We're trying to make that simple through clicking on the giving app in the bulletin and other ways. Hello, Seknans. We see that you're online here too. Shout out to Mark and Judy. Very cool to see you. Oh, Kim Pess says her dog worshipped with her today. That's wonderful. Did your dog sing? That's very fun. Some people are actually making, there's lunch bags you can make. I see the Casely family saying that they've made some, Omke Casely family, that they've made some lunches to bring over through Bayside and through St. John. So that's really excellent. Any other creative ways that maybe you're finding a way to live God's love in the world and serve your community right now? I wonder how many of you have been able to help a neighbor, or maybe some of you have connected to neighbors in this social distancing moment more than you have ever connected to your neighbors prior to this moment. That's one of the phenomena that is happening. People are actually more connected to their neighbors than they had previous to this coronavirus outbreak. That's kind of cool. Oh, someone's saying this kind of live feed is so much fun. It's even better than Name Tag Sunday. You're getting to connect in with more people than even a Name Tag Sunday. It's kind of funny. As we're tabulating our worship, we count worship attendance on Sundays. And last week, I think we were on par with attendance if you count it virtually. We had about the same attendance. So this week, we're hoping maybe with worship virtually, we break our normal attendance records for a Sunday. You can help us with that by sharing kind of all that's happening here at St. John's, and by linking people into our weekly email with their permission for their email addresses, and linking them to our social media. Now remember, you could be a member for 50 years, and if you've not given us permission to put your email on our email opt-in list, You are not getting our weekly e-blast that is the hub of our communication. So if you've not done that, or you're not even sure, you want to email us this week, send those emails to SB or Linda Baldwin, and we want to get you on our kind of opt-in email list. That's really, really important. All right, I'm trying to scroll through some of these comments here. Jonah saying that one of the things she's done is she's got a lot of elderly neighbors, and as a result, when they're making store runs, they ask if those neighbors need anything, and then they kind of help them out. That's really, really an awesome way to serve, Jonah. I think that's one of the ways I've heard a lot of people trying to serve, checking in, seeing if elderly folks need anything. Reminding them they can, if they want, shop early in the stores or shop for them. That would be kind of really, really cool. Yeah, I'm seeing people even debate, what are some of the things we're doing now that might actually sustain these ministries when things, quote unquote, go back to normal. Here's something I'm thinking about in my own life. One of the things that this has implemented for us is limitations. I was talking about this with, I see a coach in my life. A shout out to my coach. And this is a practice I'm involved in. And my coach and he shared this virus has imposed limitations on people. So you are no longer expected to have this amazing, thriving social life out at restaurants. You are no longer expected to be commuting, some of us, to and from lots. Some of you who have jobs where you punch a clock in and out, 9 and 5, but you're working at home, that has shifted. And so these new limits are actually offering us some freedoms. And one of the freedoms people are noticing is that they're having a little bit more free time. So a lot of people, I've heard, are reconnecting with old friends, reaching back into high school, college, elementary school friendships, reconnecting. And that's really, really cool. What my coach challenged me to start thinking about now, and I challenge you to start thinking about this now as well, is how can we keep some of these things we've learned and bring them into our future lives? How can we keep some of these things that have been surprisingly positive and keep them moving forward? I know one of my challenges is I tend to be someone who is better at doing things rather than just being, and I'm having more time just to be, to think, to journal. I've written some poetry. And so one of the things that could happen as we get better with this technology, I can start getting into the mindset of, oh, I did a coffee hour on Sunday. Why don't I do a coffee hour every day of the week? Why don't I do a coffee hour at 10 o'clock a.m. and 3 p.m. every day? I can get into this mentality of producing, doing more. And so what are we going to use as our guideposts? What are we going to use as our metrics and our measuring sticks for doing enough? Even at this time, as we work and do manage our home lives and our family lives and our work lives, what kind of metrics are we going to use into the future so that we remind ourselves to do things that are important, like reflect and pray for those who are suffering, so that we might be in solidarity with the whole world? Wouldn't that create a better world if more of us could take some of this being time and use it to connect to God, connect to our own hearts, and connect to our global human world, our whole world? I think that could be a positive outcome and future for us to think about. But you got to start thinking now, because human beings, we're habitual creatures. We'll fall right back into our old habits unless you start making plans now on how you're going to sustain some of the beautiful things that are happening as a result of this experience in your life and in your kind of family's lives. All right, folks. My coffee is starting to need a refill. I think we'll do a little bit more here before we sign off. Someone's saying it takes 14 days to create a new habit, and this is an opportunity to do that now. We're all hearing that we're certainly going to have 14 more days of this. What are the new habits that you're developing? One of the things I've developed and have wanted to do for years because I have back pain, I'm stretching every morning and every night. I'm trying to make that into a habit in my life. Part of that is because I don't have to get out of the house at 7:15 with my kids, so I have a little more time to do it. But maybe we can kind of sustain some of these practices of wellness and wholeness into our kind of future lives. Dr. Enright, you have come on board. It's good to see you here as well. And people are giving our organist lots of praise and thanksgiving for his wonderful prelude and postlude. Thanks for your artistry, Ryan, your faithfulness. Ryan, we know, is still going in and practicing on the organ when others are not there, doing a good job of social distancing and staying away from others, but sustaining his work and his practice. So thank you, Ryan, for your beautiful music. All the musicians today, thank you, Stephen Johnson, for organizing the music, Alicio, for the work you do with Stephen. Really kind of building up and building around the prayers was new this week. That was cool. And even a gospel acclaim was really lovely to have that. My family was kind of singing that together as the before and after the gospel today. I see one of our youth back from college, Sarah Choi, is drawing art on her wall. Sarah, I know you are an amazing artist, so I would love to see those. You should show us some pictures. Some people are, painting. That's something you could do. You could paint a wall in your space as a spiritual practice to add some brightness back into your life in your room, maybe. We're getting a thanks for Pastor, future pastor, currently seminarian, Katie Smith, for her children's sermon. That was lovely to see. You with Michaela, that was super fun. My favorite part, I loved the shaking of the dry bones that she did, and I also really loved watching Michaela watch you pray in a little moment there. It was just brilliant, so fun. Yeah, make sure you went back and got to click on that children's sermon for sure. It was a good one. All right, folks, I see some people are kind of still saying hi, but some people are getting ready to sign off here as well. Carolyn Brote is thanking Dr. Enright personally, our vicar. She really appreciated the music. So a shout out to you, Ryan, from Vicar Carolyn. I think what I want to do here before I wrap up and get a little bit more coffee in my Hebrews/Shebrews coffee mug is say this again. I don't feel like I can say this enough because I can't actually see you. I want to see you and say this to your face, but oh my gosh, we miss you. All the staff is talking about you. We love our community of St. John's. Maybe absence truly does make the heart grow fonder. I really miss being with you all, but I love hearing what's going on with you. Please communicate. Let us know what's going on. Don't allow yourself to feel isolated and alone. Reach out to someone if you've got a directory, to someone you've never called before. Find out how they're doing. We can't communicate enough right now. That helps us curb the anxiety and the uncertainty of our future. Lots of hearts and loves and thumbs up coming on the page right now. Just reach out to each other in love. How are you doing? even if you already know someone's doing okay, just knowing that they're getting checked in on means so much. And three pastors and a vicar cannot reach out to thousands and thousands of people that are on our member rolls per week. But together we can. Really, I think one of the other things that result from this time at St. John's is the greatest build and greatest accumulation of lay leaders our church has ever seen. And I pray for that. If we get more lay leaders to step up in our work, then truly our church will build and grow and share good news even better than it does now. Well, folks, I think my coffee is officially cold. Maybe yours is too. I'm going to say thanks for watching today. We'll try this again next week. Look for some pop-up events. This week we may try like that one I mentioned with Laura King. Be well, be safe, physically distance yourself from people, please, but don't do it socially. Reach out and connect. And hey, always live God's love in the world. All right, go get a refill on your coffee. Take care, everybody. God bless.